Chicago, Illinois, 1978. Northwestern Memorial Hospital, 3 in the morning. The parking lot was nearly empty. Just a handful of cars scattered across the massive lot, most belonging to night shift nurses and doctors. A few belonging to families keeping vigil with patients who might not make it to morning. Muhammad Ali's Rolls-Royce was parked in a loading zone, not in a proper parking spot, not in visitor parking, right in front of the emergency entrance in a clearly marked no parking area. The kind of spot that gets towed immediately under normal circumstances. But these weren't normal circumstances. Ali had gotten the call 2 hours earlier. His trainer, his friend, his brother in every way that mattered except blood. Drew Bundini Brown was dying. The doctor said hours at most, maybe less. If Ali wanted to say goodbye, he needed to come now. Ali had been in Los Angeles, working on a movie project. Some Hollywood thing that seemed meaningless the moment he heard Bundini's condition. He'd chartered a private plane, flown to Chicago, drove straight from the airport to the hospital. Didn't think about parking, didn't think about regulations, just pulled up to the closest entrance and ran inside. That was 90 minutes ago. Now he was sitting in Bundini's room, holding his friend's hand, watching him struggle to breathe, watching the machines monitoring his failing heart, listening to the labored breathing that came in shorter and shorter intervals. Bundini had been with Ali for 15 years, since 1963, through the first Liston fight, through the exile, through the comeback, through the thriller in Manila, through every major moment of Ali's career. He was more than a trainer, more than a cornerman. He was the voice in Ali's ear, the energy in his corner, the man who created Float Like a Butterfly, Sting Like a Bee, the man who believed in Ali when the whole world turned against him. And now he was dying. Ali wasn't crying, not yet. He was talking, telling Bundini stories, reminding him of moments they'd shared, fights they'd won, times they'd laughed, trying to fill the room with life even as death was settling in. Remember when you told me I was going to shock the world against Liston? Remember how crazy everyone thought that was? A 22-year-old kid against the baddest man on the planet? But you believed. You always believed. Bundini's eyes were closed, but his hand squeezed Ali's slightly. He was listening. And when they took my title, when they banned me from boxing, when everyone said I was finished, you stayed. You could have gone to work with other fighters, made money, but you stayed with me. 3.5 years with no fights, no income. You stayed. Another weak squeeze. Manila, that heat, that hell. 14th round and I wanted to quit. I was done, couldn't breathe. And you got in my face. You said, this is what you've been waiting for. This is your moment. One more round. You wouldn't let me quit. You saved my legacy that night. Ali's voice cracked. The tears were coming now. Down in the parking lot, a hospital security guard named Robert Mitchell was making his rounds. It was his job to check the lot every hour, make sure no unauthorized vehicles were parked in restricted zones, ticket them, call for towing if necessary, keep the emergency entrance clear for ambulances. He saw the Rolls-Royce immediately, impossible to miss, expensive car, parked in a loading zone that was clearly marked no parking, tow-away zone. He walked over to it, checked the windshield for any hospital permit, nothing, checked for any emergency flashers, off. This was just someone who thought the rules didn't apply to them. Mitchell was in his 50s, had worked hospital security for 20 years, seen every excuse, every reason why someone thought they deserved special treatment. He didn't care if you were rich, didn't care if you were having an emergency. The rules existed for a reason. Emergency vehicles needed access. That loading zone needed to stay clear. He pulled out his citation book, started writing a ticket, then called the towing company. Yeah, this is Northwestern Memorial. Got a Rolls-Royce in the emergency loading zone. Need it towed, soon as possible. The tow truck dispatcher recognized the description. A Rolls-Royce? At Northwestern, that's Muhammad Ali's car. I don't care whose car it is. It's illegally parked. Send a truck. You sure about this? That's Muhammad Ali, the boxer. Send the truck. I'll have the paperwork ready. Mitchell walked into the hospital, asked at the reception desk if anyone knew who owned the Rolls-Royce outside. The night receptionist, a young woman named Sandra, looked nervous. That's Muhammad Ali's car. He's here visiting someone. A patient. I don't care who he is. The car needs to move. That's a loading zone. Emergency vehicles need access. But sir, he's with a dying patient. He's saying goodbye to his friend. Then he can say goodbye from a legal parking spot. The car gets towed in 15 minutes if it's not moved. Sandra hesitated. She knew who was in that room upstairs, knew the patient was dying, knew this was probably the last time Ali would see his friend alive. But she also knew Mitchell, knew he didn't bend rules for anyone. Can I at least call up to the room? Let them know? You can do whatever you want, but in 15 minutes, that car is gone. Sandra called the nurse's station on Bundini's floor, explained the situation. The nurse who answered said she'd send someone to tell Ali, but she made it clear. The man was with a dying friend. This was not the time. The nurse walked quietly into Bundini's room. Ali was still holding his friend's hand, still talking. Still trying to keep death at bay with words and memories. The nurse spoke softly. Mr. Ali, I'm sorry to interrupt, but security says your car is in a loading zone. They're going to tow it if you don't move it. Ali didn't look up. Tell them to tow it. Sir, tell them to tow the car. I'm not leaving. I'm not moving. They can tow it to California for all I care. I'm staying with my friend. The nurse nodded, understood, went back to call down to Sandra. Sandra relayed the message to Mitchell. Mr. Ali says to go ahead and tow it. He's not leaving his friend. Mitchell's face hardened. Fine, then it gets towed. The tow truck arrived 20 minutes later. Mitchell met the driver outside, pointed to the Rolls-Royce. That one, loading zone violation. The driver, a man named Frank, looked at the car, looked at Mitchell. You're really going to tow Muhammad Ali's car while he's inside with a dying friend? The loading zone needs to stay clear. This is going to be bad press for the hospital. You know that, right? Do your job and hook up the car. Frank shook his head but started positioning his truck. He'd just gotten the chains ready when another car pulled up. A cab. Out stepped an older black man in a suit. He'd been listening to the radio. Heard that Ali was at Northwestern Memorial. Came to pay respects to Bundini. Everyone in Chicago's boxing community knew Bundini was dying. The man saw the tow truck, saw what was happening, walked over to Mitchell. You're towing Muhammad Ali's car? It's illegally parked. The man is upstairs saying goodbye to his dying friend, his trainer, his brother, and you're towing his car? Hospital policy is hospital policy. Hospital policy. The man's voice rose. That man upstairs is Muhammad Ali. He's a hero. He's a champion. He's lost more and given more than you'll ever understand. Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to step back. No, I'm not stepping back. You're making a mistake, a human mistake. That man is going through something you can't imagine, and you're adding insult to grief. Other people started gathering, a nurse finishing her shift, 2 paramedics who'd just brought in a patient. Word spread quickly. Muhammad Ali's car was being towed while he was inside with dying Bundini Brown. One of the paramedics, a woman named Jessica, walked up to Mitchell. I work here. I know the rules, but I also know humanity. Let the man keep his car there for tonight, just tonight. His friend is dying. Mitchell felt the pressure, felt the judgment, but he'd made his call. He couldn't back down now. The truck is already here. The car gets towed. Frank, the tow truck driver, had heard enough. He unhooked his chains. I'm not doing this. I'm not towing Muhammad Ali's car while he's saying goodbye to his dying friend. Find another driver. You're refusing to do your job. Yeah, I am. Sue me, fire me. I don't care. I'm not being the guy who does this. Frank got in his truck and drove away. Mitchell stood there, humiliated, angry, but also starting to realize he'd misread the situation. This wasn't about parking enforcement. This was about compassion, about understanding that some moments are bigger than rules. He went back inside, took the elevator up to Bundini's floor, walked to the nurse's station. "Which room is Mr. Ali in?" The nurse pointed. "But sir, the patient is dying. This is really not—" "I know. I just need a minute." Mitchell walked to the door. It was slightly open. He could see Ali sitting next to the bed, holding Bundini's hand, tears streaming down his face, talking quietly. "You gave me the words when I had none. You gave me courage when I was scared. You gave me belief when I doubted. Everything I became, you helped build. You hear me, Bundini? Everything." Ali looked up, his eyes red, his face showing grief that no championship could protect against. "Mr. Ali, I'm Robert Mitchell, hospital security. I came about your car." Ali's expression hardened. "I told them, tow it, I don't care, I'm not leaving." Mitchell held up his hands. "No, sir, I'm not here to tow your car. I'm here to apologize. I was enforcing rules without thinking about what they meant. Your car can stay as long as you need, all night, all week, however long. I'll make sure no one bothers it." Ali stared at him, surprised. "You don't have to do that." "Yes, I do. I was wrong. I was doing my job but forgetting why we have jobs. We're here to help people, to show compassion, not to make hard situations harder. Your friend," Mitchell looked at Bundini, "your friend is lucky to have you here. That matters more than parking regulations." "Thank you," Ali said quietly. "That means something." Mitchell nodded, started to leave, then turned back. "I'm sorry for your loss. Even before it happens, I can see what he means to you." Ali nodded. Couldn't speak. Just nodded. Mitchell went back downstairs, put a note on Ali's car. "Authorized by security. Do not tow." Then he stood guard near it for the rest of his shift, making sure no one questioned it, no one bothered it. Bundini Brown died at 5:47 a.m., with Muhammad Ali holding his hand, with Ali telling him one more time about the Liston fight, about shocking the world, about being the greatest. Bundini's last conscious moment was hearing Ali's voice, hearing his friend, his champion, his brother. Ali stayed for another hour, talking to Bundini even after he was gone, not ready to leave, not ready to accept it. Finally he stood, walked out of the room, down the elevator, through the lobby. Sandra the receptionist watched him go, tears in her eyes. He looked smaller somehow, less like a champion, more like a man who'd lost someone irreplaceable. Saw the note from Mitchell. Saw Mitchell himself standing nearby. Ali walked over to him. "You stayed? Wanted to make sure no one bothered your car. I'm sorry about your friend." Ali put his hand on Mitchell's shoulder. "You changed your mind. That takes courage. Most people double down when they're wrong. You admitted it, fixed it. That's character. It was the right thing to do. It was. Thank you." Ali got in his car, drove away as the sun was coming up. He'd lost Bundini, lost the man who'd been in his corner for 15 years, lost the voice that had pushed him to greatness. But he'd also seen something that night. He'd seen a security guard choose compassion over rules, choose humanity over policy, choose to be wrong and correct it, rather than be right and cruel. Years later, when people asked Ali about Bundini, he'd tell stories about the fights, about the training, about the loyalty. But sometimes he'd also tell the story about the night Bundini died, about the security guard who was going to tow his car, about how that guard came upstairs to apologize, about how that small act of compassion meant something in the middle of grief. "People think being strong means never admitting you're wrong," Ali would say. "But real strength is recognizing when you've made a mistake and fixing it." That guard did that. In the middle of the worst night of my life, he showed me that humanity is stronger than regulations. that compassion is more important than being right. Bundini would have loved that story. He always said the world needed more people who could admit when they're wrong. The lesson is simple but profound. Rules exist for reasons, but humanity should guide when and how we enforce them. Robert Mitchell learned that night that being right about a parking violation is meaningless compared to being kind to someone in brief. That sometimes the job isn't about enforcement. It's about understanding. When to show mercy. When to put the person before the policy. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs permission to choose compassion over correctness. Subscribe for more stories about the small acts of humanity that mean everything. And remember, being right is less important than being kind. Muhammad Ali knew that, and one night in Chicago, a security guard learned it too. Comment below. Have you ever had to choose between following rules and showing compassion? What did you choose? Hit that like button if you believe humanity should always come first.